Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Sunjung, and today I would like to go through the design of the maintenance mode for the Geo team. And in the previous UX showcase presentation, I have already introduced the Geo replication part, which is at the viable level. But for today, I'd like to focus on the disaster recovery, which is at the minimal level. So what is disaster recovery? To understand, I need to spend some time on it to understand the concept. And these terms just come up. So failover, of course, this terminology just popped up on the documentation. So I needed to Google and ask the Wikipedia, what does this mean? And it was actually a panic attack. So I really needed to ping the team and actually several times to understand this concept and to get to know the context better to deliver the design for this. So for the better understanding, what is failover? So basically this means it's kind of like backup mode for the data on top of Git and GitLab. So in case of any unplanned outage or in case of any unplanned outage, the secondary system can take over the role of primary so that they can kind of easily manage the system with continuity. So since the Geo already provides the replication of database and some artifacts like repositories and wikis, so we want to enable the failover feature with very minimal effort. And if users are already using Geo, they can just select a secondary node and promote it to the primary node, and they can just start playing around this planned failover case. But I understand that because I already mentioned this presentation title as maintenance mode, but I'm keep talking about failover and disaster recovery. So why maintenance mode here? So currently on the Geo, it's still the disaster recovery is still in the minimal level. So user can promote the secondary node to the primary on the command line, not on the UI. And also the users can disable the primary node on the command line, not on the UI. So the current challenge is pretty critical that user cannot enable the maintenance mode at all. So we want to make this process more improved versions. So our PM Fabian and I came to this conclusion, like, okay, let's make this MVC goal of the maintenance mode. We have to think about provide a better way to block out of non-admin users. And also we have to provide a better way to read-only mode on the GitLab UI. So this was our first epic about the maintenance mode. So as a designer, still I really need to understand the context very well. So this was our approach. So based upon the epic that we opened before, we started the discussion within the team. So engineers' input was very useful and helpful and then we could kind of kick off the real POC for the backend side. And in the meantime, I had some time, so I could explore how others visualize the similar features. And it helped me a lot to understand the context of use and how they formulate this, their instruction documents. So it was really helpful to me. And then our PM Fabian and I started to look into some right user to talk, like sysadmin for the GitLab users. And we would like to talk more about their current pain points and their current workflow and their potential plan for the failover if in case they have it. So we started to look around the users, and it was really like not that like organized interviews. It was really quick, like within 30 minutes, and we asked them questions about the pain points, and they provided us really interesting points that really need this maintenance mode for several reasons. For example, for the case of plan failover, it is required to manage the non-admins anyway to block out. So they were kind of really desperate and wanting this feature to be implemented. And we didn't realize it. And also they really wanted this maintenance mode for the day-to-day task, because they wanted to stay stable and they wanted just to feel stable to block out the non-admin user and do some administrative works and then disable the maintenance mode. And now our GitLab turns to the normal mode. So based upon our lessons learned, we mapped this user flow together on the mural board. So as I already mentioned, we kind of come up with the two possible use cases. The first one is about the planned failover. So the user flow was quite different between the planned failover case and also the normal administrative task. So before the planned failover, sysadmin should schedule the failover and they need to communicate within the company by email. I don't think they use phone in this case, but they mentioned that they use email. And also they need to enable this maintenance mode by scheduling exact starting date or time, like 3 days later or something like this. So after they enabling this maintenance mode, they have to check every node on the geo, under the geo is all synced and verified like 100% healthy. And then they need to move on to select the right secondary node to promote that, okay, now you should be work as a primary, not as a secondary. And then they can disable the maintenance mode finally. So their secondary node is now the new primary. But I was wondering as a designer, like, okay, this planned failover case, like what could be the real use case? Well, the real use case might be applied to the really big organizations. So for example, if they want to shut down or maintain, I don't know, some scheduling, some maintenance for their data center, then they really need to shut down their data center. So they wanted to try out the planned failover before the data center shut down. And then they feel kind of like satisfied, okay, now everything works pretty well. And then they are kind of now ready for the real disaster recovery situations. And this was the second use case of administrative task, which I mentioned already before. The beforehand step was pretty similar, but after process is kind of different and it's way more simpler actually. So they need to perform like regular administrative tasks like some troubleshooting like bug fix or some test running, or they need to upgrade the Geo version or GitLab version, then they need to enable this maintenance mode and log out every non-admin users. And then they do their own job and then come back and disable this maintenance mode and hey, it's done and now you can just use GitLab. So this was my understanding, and based upon this understanding, I started to visualize this idea. Of course, I started with wireframing, which is my favorite part. So I put the link here. So this was very first version of draft of the maintenance mode. I got some notes on it. So we started to discuss based upon this visuals and then started to think about the iterations and how can we put the read-only mode if this is possible. So we discussed and we put some effort and some time. And after that, I moved to Sketch to provide high fidelity prototype. So the first iteration was this. They can just use the maintenance page to block out the non-admin users, meaning for your understanding, I prepare for this weird look like maintenance mode page. So we can use this type of maintenance mode page is like, you need to contact your administrator. We are under the maintenance mode so that non-admin user cannot see the UI at all. And the second iteration is including the read-only mode. So sysadmin can select that, okay, if we're under the maintenance mode, they can still see the UI, but they cannot write anything. So this was our second iterations. And thanks to Maria's feedback, I could improve this design a lot better than before. She was my pair designer. So it was really happy to have a chat with her and have a nice one-on-one design critic session online. And after that, I was pretty confident to deliver this design, but still, I'm non-technical person, so I need engineers' input. So I started to create an issue for a async design review, and I used 4 different question framework because probably it's their first time. So I would like to kind of focus on this question that they can formulate their feedback in a more constructive way. And based upon this feedback, I updated the design and I got really like nice feedback. So I should change the design. For example, this was the data. So the first version was like this. I thought that like scheduling from the starting date and end date might work, but actual use case might be different because they cannot estimate their end dates. So this might work better. Thanks to engineers' input, I could update this design. So currently it's at the moment, it's kind of like paused from my side because I'm still waiting for work in progress, like technical discussion, like how can we transfer this command line interaction to the UI, because this includes some of the pseudo like command, which might be dangerous. So I think we need to think more. And also there could be some dependency on thinking and verification of data for the planned failover case. So I'm still waiting. If this discussion is almost done, then now we're ready to plan for the real actual implementation. So we can start mapping out those technical scope for the very first iteration. And then at the same time, I will start validating this design concept with the actual users. And if really this would work or no. And this is all I had. Thank you for your time and attention, and any questions?
I have a comment.
Yes.
So much for sharing this. What really stood out to me throughout is how much you collaborated so broadly with your team, with PM, with engineering, and with the UX team. And that's awesome. That's exactly how we should be working. So thank you for sharing that. And especially on something, the point you kept making, that's so deeply technical. Feedback from the engineering team is just absolutely critical. So good work.
Thank you very much. Any more questions?